Stop and think about this for a moment. You have 3 women in a man's world. You don't want to be a woman alone in that world, but they're alone. No husband, no father, no menfolk to care for them or protect them. And that's not even counting just the emotional distress of having someone who was your mate that you love gone. 3 someones gone. Why does God let that kind of thing happen? I mean, it's easy to read through this and just kind of see it as the starting point, the background thing. Okay, here's the situation of our story. But these are real people. You realize whenever we say story, we don't mean fictional. Actual events. Okay, the book of Ruth is a historical account of very real people who went through this. So why do these things happen? Bring us closer to Him. It's one reason, right? The big reason it happens at all is just sinful nature. We broke the world. We continue to. I've heard people say, why are we punished for what Adam did? We'll put you in Adam's place. You do the exact same thing. We do it daily. We don't want you, God. We want your stuff. A lot of the suffering, almost all of the suffering and pain that we endure, you can point at a cause from brokenness and fallenness of mankind. Sometimes it's natural, right? Sometimes it's just someone gets sick, right? But all of that traces back to the sinfulness of the world. What's interesting, though, to really stop and think about, and we've talked about before how worldview matters. Your foundational belief just about the world feeds into how you view everything else. The predominant view in our culture nowadays is what's called secular humanism, that mankind is the point. That the whole view is we can be good enough to solve it, we can come up with reasons to fix it, and it's all focused on humanity. There is no God. That's the prevailing view. Even in churches, the ideas of secular humanism sneak in. Let me show you. Secular humanism puts suffering at the center of the human experience. Right and wrong is defined as well-being. Right? If it promotes well-being, then it's good. If it causes suffering, it's bad. And that sounds good. We don't want people to suffer. But you realize in Christianity, that is not the central aspect. In Christianity, suffering is incidental to life. It's just kind of part of it that comes along with the human experience. It's not the central focus. As tragic as it can be, the pain, the suffering, the trials, the tribulations we go through are not the thing that defines our lives and our experiences. James tells us this life is just a vapor. We're nothing but a vapor, a mist that appears and is gone in an instant. A flower that blooms, but by the afternoon is withered. That this life is brief, here and gone. Paul refers to his trials and his sufferings and his tribulations that he went through as light and momentary afflictions. And you remember what Paul went through? Shipwrecked 3 times, beaten with rods, was given the 39 lashes on a couple occasions. On one occasion, he was attempted execution. They stoned him and left him for dead because they thought he was, but he wasn't. Got up, walked off. Friends betrayed him. And he's saying, light and momentary afflictions. And that's not to belittle or demean what you might feel as you go through something painful, but that's to put it in the perspective. Because like he says, in comparison to eternity, what do our trials have to do with our well-being? Right? If you think about childhood, as a child, say, 6 years old, I got a 6-year-old daughter, so that pops in my head. She has an experience that is devastating to her. Well, what about whenever she's 10? Right, when she's 6 and has the experience, it devastates her and it defines everything around her at the moment. Well, what about by the time she's 10? How defining is that moment? Not very. I mean, it's probably still in the back of her head and it was really sad. Well, how about whenever she's 15? How about whenever she's 20? How about whenever she's 50? right? If you think about, right, because almost everyone in this room has been around the sun a few times. If you think about a painful experience, even a tragedy that happened early in life, how much now does it define you? It doesn't. Right? It's probably still there in the back of your head. You remember it every now and then, and it's sad. Now let's go ahead and tag on eternity. If time heals all wounds, as the saying goes, how much healing are you going to get as eternity rolls on? And the trials and tribulations and pain of this life grow further and further and further in the distance, in the past. Suffering on the Christian worldview is incidental. It's part of life. It happens. But it doesn't define who we are. It doesn't define our existence or our experience in this world. So why does God let it happen? You know, sometimes the world is just messed up.